Hello, everyone. Today I want to talk about just a quick little chat about what I just saw on Asmongold's channel, talking about Palworld devs being based AF. And this is what Asmongold reads off of the Discord, which I guess there was some interpretation done of a Japanese interview with the devs. And this is apparently what the devs said.
There it is. What's your creative vision? I don't have a creative vision. I just want to make a game that people like.
Yeah, look at Asmon's face. So Asmon is rightfully just kind of laughing because these devs are coming out and just blatantly and brazenly saying something that we all know. You know it, as Asmongold would say. I know it. Everyone knows it. That a majority of creative production is for the money, is for making something that people will hopefully consume and enjoy. Unfortunately, I think the last part has been a bit lost, where devs are now more interested in making a statement, I guess. But it got me thinking about, what is the role of passion and vision in creative, production, and how important it is. So I've got my own version of Paint open, and we're going to make a little spectrum here, shall we say, from top to bottom. So let's get started. I'm going to break it down, and you're going to notice that my initial kind of breakdown is going to look a little lopsided for a spectrum. This is a little strange, probably. But the reality is that when we're talking about good, bad, and everything in between, there's usually more mediocrity going on than actually like terrible things, if that makes sense. So let's put up here, we're going to put the word good up here. Oh my goodness, this is quite big. So let's make it a bit smaller. So we're going to put the word good. Yeah, good. All right. And that'll be for the good stuff. And then down here, we're going to put another one. It's going to be bad. So we're going to go bad. So this is where all the bad stuff is going to hang out. And then in here in the middle, what we're going to do is we're going to put in, let's put in everything else. Let's make it nice and small. Yeah, everything else. So let's all be real here. This is kind of just the reality of how things are created. So let's put it there. And we have our spectrum. You're going to have this 10% of things that are truly inspired and inspiring. Then you're going to have just the absolute bottom feeders down here. And then we have everything else. But even within everything else, we have still more that we can more or less kind of delineate here. Okay, so let's put another separation here. And this is going to be our spectrum of good to bad stuff. So at the top, we're going to have basically this kind of group of production that is going to represent really the best of creative effort. Let's make it so we can get a bunch of stuff in here. So this stuff is going to be meaningful. It's going to be born of passion. It's going to be well done. So it's going to have a high production value. And, this is kind of like what we would hope everything is going to kind of be, but let's all be real. That's not how the world works. Okay. And then over here, we're going to add a new thing right underneath it. So this is where I think Palworld belongs. This is going to be lack of passion, like a personal passion, poor vision, maybe air quotes poor being creative vision. Now, once again, we can kind of go into that, but it's still well made, right? And we could say trend following. So this isn't going to be like pushing the boundaries of anything. This is not Kojima, like in some ways, I think Death Stranding is both at the very top and the very bottom. I'll explain. But Kojima's Death Stranding, maybe Journey and Flower are in the good section. Maybe Witcher 3, Final Fantasy 14, perhaps because of the MSQ. But to be frank, there is a lot of elitism that surrounds creativity. And so people usually talk about passion and vision as being the paramount, when in fact, if you're just trying to make money, you can actually get away with not being as creative or not being as necessarily passionate. But if you're professional and you put out a solid product, people will still buy it because it's well made, it's fun, and it's just giving them what they want. And this is where I kind of part ways with a lot of culture war critics, because there are a lot of people who are saying things like people care about good stories and stuff. And I disagree. I think that if we really analyze what people are watching on the daily, yes, they can appreciate the Schindler's Lists or Ben-Hur's or whatever. But if on your average day, you're not going to be watching that, you're going to be watching, I don't know, Fast and Furious or something. I'm not sure what, but you got a lot of girls who are going to enjoy a Jane Austen film, but at the same point in time, they're also going to be consuming Bridgerton. So I personally think it is very, very, very possible for people to enjoy what a lot of cultural elites call, not creative or not passionate. But as long as it's well made and it's giving people what they have been looking for, whatever that might be, it's going to do well, and it's going to bring in the money, which, I mean, if that's what you're looking for at the end of the day, then success to you, right? Now, underneath this, I'm going to put meaningful stuff, and it's born of passion, but it's not well done. Okay, so this is where things get a little difficult. So this is actually where I would maybe put Death Stranding, because although I love Death Stranding's acting and I thought the visuals were very good, and I enjoyed watching streamers playing it, I cried a lot. I thought Mads Mikkelsen was phenomenal. He deserved that award for voice acting. The music by Ludwig Forsell is mind-blowing. If you haven't listened to the actual soundtrack for the game, you need to go out and listen to it now. But in my opinion, although it's meaningful and it was born of passion, the narrative structure to me was too poorly paced. I thought it was too back-ended, so that you were kind of playing the game and you weren't really trickle-fed the lore as well as it could have been. So at the end, there's like almost like an hour-long cinematic. It felt like it was going on forever, and it was very good. But part of me was like, couldn't we have trickled this out a bit more throughout the game to kind of make it more, engaging for the players who were struggling with the other game mechanics as well. In this case, they wanted to really talk about bridging people, bringing people together in an era where the political divide in America was tearing American people apart. Because I think it was around 2016, right? Or at least it was in the Trump era. So there was a lot of cultural discussion, and there was, this increasing chasm, which I think still exists to this day, but whatever. Anyhow, and so there's this kind of sense that Kojima was really trying to say something meaningful, but in the process, it affected his gameplay to such a degree that it became more of a meme and less of a point about trudging and about making connections and helping others. It could have been done perhaps better. Okay, so now we're going to get down to the bottom, the absolute bottom. So one of the things that is terrible, absolutely nobody's going to buy it, is the anthems, the Red Falls, the Day Befores, right? The lack of vision and passion, and it is poorly made. And then over here, we're going to add over here, I'm going to add another one, meaningful, preachy, not poorly made. So if something is low production and it's preachy, it's going to get shit on. Everyone's going to hate on it. And if it is poorly done, and it's just like a quick cash grab, people are really going to hate on it. And I mean, rightfully so, right? These kinds of games need to be made an example of so that they don't become normalized in the industry. So this is my scale. And generally speaking, this might feel kind of like me bashing creatives. It's not. I'm a writer myself, right? And I have big dreams for myself. I trust in my own visions as well. But the reality is that you're not always going to be able to make money based off of just doing what you want. Sometimes you have to compromise and just be professional and do what you need to do, especially if you want to make, if you want to have an income. If you want to make income, you're going to have to compromise to a degree. Now, I do want to add an additional kind of set of information. Let's see if I can draw a marginal straight line here. So let's see if I can draw a line here. And here's where I want to talk about the Venn diagram of quality versus enjoyability. And this is also probably going to make some people less than happy. Okay, so here's the deal. Sometimes the best things that we can consume, some of the most meaningful things we consume are very difficult. Okay, and this is just a reality. This is just the way things are. Because classical literature isn't easy to read. Not everyone's going to want to read it, and unfortunately, sometimes even good stuff is not enjoyable. I can look at Moby Dick and say Moby Dick is technically brilliant and fantastic and amazing, but I'm going to be frank, I never enjoyed reading Moby Dick. There you have it. Yeah, that was me. So you can have something that's very good, but it doesn't necessarily mean it is going to be enjoyable. But I would argue that there's a higher rate of enjoyability from a certain level down. So if we were going to kind of look at it in terms of, let's say it's a green light for enjoyability. So we're going to choose like a nice brilliant green color here. Let's see what we got. Okay, and then I'm going to say that here there is an aspect of this being enjoyable, and this is definitely enjoyable. This is like the crack cocaine of creative endeavor right here, right in here. And I think part of this could be enjoyable, right? Part of this could be enjoyable. So some things that are meaningful and they're born from passion, but they're not necessarily produced very well. Maybe there was a lack in the budget, or the people didn't have all of the resources or knowledge to kind of make their vision come true. People are going to struggle, but they may still enjoy it, especially if there's a nostalgia factor involved. Now, there is also kind of like a pause moment, a pause level, right? Where people may not enjoy it as much, and they will maybe consume it for a little bit and then they'll drop it and never think about it again. And unfortunately, I'm actually going to put some of that response up here. Does it look a bit green to you? My yellow looks a bit green to me for some reason, but it is what it is now. So this yellow is kind of the pause motion where people may not necessarily have an ultra negative reaction to it. It's very neutral, but they're going to just put it down and not think of it again. And I'm sure you all can think of video games where this is the case. And then finally, here we go. We're going to talk about things that people are just revolt against. And this is down here. Like, people are just not going to want to get preached at. I think that, for example, there can sometimes be a level where it's up here as well. So, for example, Last of Us 2 was trying to say something meaningful. And in some ways, it was very well done game in some ways, I guess. But let's just say that not many people enjoyed it because it was a bit preachy, and it was kind of like hitting players over the head with a club, being like, you get it, vengeance is bad, you understand why? And so it really detracted, I guess, from that. So maybe we could even put it down here, but I think some players have a very negative reaction to what could be good stuff, and but it's just maybe poorly executed. So yeah, so it's a difficult way to think about it, but in some ways maybe this spectrum would be more accurate to view it as a horseshoe, where you have some games that are so bad they become good, or some games that are so good in some ways that they become very divisive and are not as enjoyable. And then we have this spectrum, this happy middle. And as you noticed, I'm basically saying that you can have a very professional and almost robotic approach to your creative stuff. It's not going to maybe impact the world long term, but it will definitely bring in the money, and it will bring enjoyment to some people's lives. And I think it's really important to kind of tear away this facade, this kind of rhetoric that a lot of creatives have been hiding behind. Like, I'm very passionate about my work. Well, that's very nice, but your passion did not translate into something good. And so I think it's very important to kind of relegate passion and recognize that when we are making something, yes, we can be passionate. Doesn't mean that will be good. And the stuff that is meaningful, that will transcend time, like Elden Ring, perhaps, and maybe Baldur's Gate 3 even. For me personally, thanks to Asmongold, I started playing Final Fantasy XIV about 2 years ago, and it was incredibly meaningful to me, and I know the devs are passionate about their game. So for me, I would say that it's something that's incredibly enjoyable, but once again, it's not everyone's cup of tea, because enjoyment is subjective. Quality analysis is, objective, but enjoyment is definitely a subjective experience. And so we have to recognize that even though there are many very good, meaningful, passionate, projects that are put out, not everyone is going to respond to them, because number one, they might lack taste themselves, or number two, it's a very tough topic or a tough kind of piece of creative, product or whatever, and it's not just something you sit down and do. So anyway, that's just me kind of responding to this on the fly. I don't know. It's a bit wilding for me, but I just felt really inspired by what Asmongold was reading, and I think Palworld may be a wake-up call to about this whole question of passion. And I do kind of disagree with the Palworld creator. I think his creative vision was to make something fun, and that's all really that you need. But it's possible that what he meant by creative vision was being creative or doing something new. And in the context, he's talking about trend following. So I bet they sat down, they said, we want to make a game that's fun, that everyone will play, and we want to make bank. And someone goes, oh, Pokemon. We know they've been shitting the bed for years. And then someone else is like, we could make Pokemon, and we're going to put guns in it because Americans like shooting, so on and so forth. So I can totally see where they definitely had a vision of a sort, but perhaps we could say it wasn't necessarily air quote creative. It was just, you know, just one of those things where they assessed the market, they did their market research, and then they were like, this is what we want to do. So, yeah, there we go. That is my little thought, kind of, I don't know, theory crafting about passion and vision. What do you think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? What video games would you put in the spectrum and where? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. You can hit the like button, subscribe, and I'll see you all soon. Take care.